Okay, I'm Len Schauber, the chair of the Stafford Lower Tualatin Valley CPO, which is a community planning organization, and we're here to have a special meeting to respond to a request. Let me get a little bit of history here. Received an email on dated 9/11 from county planning. They had asked the director for a decision on application number Z0487-17-1, which was on a remand to the county from Luba, which is a Land Use Board of Appeals. And the director's decision by this email was to authorize for similar use request. It was approved. A little bit of history here. Back in 2017, the then planning director, Mike McAllister, was asked through Z0487-17-1 to interpret the Willamette United Football Association, which is WFA, as their operation to be considered the like other parts definition in the city ordinances. That decision was to allow WFC's operation. It was appealed to Luba. It was approved by McAllister. It was appealed to Luba, which then gave it back to the county for redo. A little bit of history about what the Willamette United Football Club is looking at. There's a piece of property which is owned by the Foursquare Church of Foursquare South Lake Baptist Church. It's located on Borland Road, just north of Borland Road. This is bordering on I-205, and it edges on where Eck Road intersection is on Borland. 23.67 acres involved. The address is 1521 Southwest Borland Road. And since the decision was made on 9/10, the deadline for the appeal is 9/22, which is only 12 days, which is tomorrow. And that's the reason why we're having this special meeting to discuss any action that we would want the CPO to take in this matter. So that's the basic background. Now, who else would want to start the discussion on this, or that's basically our agenda, so that's the only item we're involving
tonight. I think probably the next thing, Len, should be Katie describing the voting process, and the only other thing I think that we wanted to say to preceding the actual getting into the meat of this was that the agenda for this meeting is focused strictly on putting together an appeal document that you all will vote on. That voting then is a function of what Katie is going to describe here next as far as how it works in the context of the CPO, which is a little different than the Hamlet.
Okay. Well, first, we should open it up if there's anyone who has any questions. And then, so we'll go through that process. And then I just want to remind everybody that in order to be eligible to vote in your CPO based on your CPO bylaws, you need to have attended a meeting in the last 12 months. And there's one vote per household in the CPO. So if there's more than one person from a household attending the meeting tonight, you'll have to coordinate how you're voting. And we'll let you decide how you want to do that. But what I will do when we are ready to vote, after all the questions have been answered or asked, is I will go down the roster and I will ask you to confirm if you have attended a meeting in the last 12 months. And then I will I will ask for your vote, and we'll go through the line like that. It's a little bit time consuming, but based on the tight turnaround for this meeting, that's the best way that we came up to do this. So I ask everyone to be patient and hang with us while we take care of that. So first, I want to ask you to use the raise hand feature if you have a question or a comment before we vote. and we'll go through the questions and comments first, and then we'll take the vote. So
I've
the
got a
first,
question,
what
Katie,
was
is
that,
first
Lynn?
of all, as far as we need to have some explanation about what the appeal would do and who has, I think John Keith has got a format together.
Yep.
Procedurally,
Well,
we need a motion made and second,
sure.
and then we can go ahead and discuss it. So I need to get a motion from somebody to
Oh, okay.
keep forward
Go
with the
ahead.
appeal process to that effect.
Go ahead.
Who do you want to go ahead, Katie?
I thought he said he wanted to get a motion first before
No,
discussion.
well, I think before we do that, I'd like to have Mitch Jones give a little, add to the background that Lynn provided. And Mitch, are you on? And can you give us a little brief update from your perspective and from your group?
Yeah, can you hear me, John?
Yep.
Okay, great. First off, thanks for the to the CPO board and the county in arranging this impromptu, important vote and meeting. Really, to me, a few things already been covered by Len, but excuse me for that. The issue at hand to me is whether an interpretation decision, should be made by the county to add uses to the county ordinance, which would allow zoning for a world-class athletic facility to be approved and individual sports uses in our Tualatin Valley Stafford CPO zone, and which actually would apply to all RRFF-5 zones. So whatever happens here, it doesn't have to happen just here. It happens to all RRFF-5. And really, for those you may not know, there are thousands of acres of RRFF-5 in Clackamas County, and this affected. And you can go to the zoning map. There are almost as much area in RFF-5 as there are in the incorporated cities. So this is a huge deal, and nobody else knows about it but us because they haven't been notified. So I just point out, as Len said, the planned sports complex location is the property next to South Lake Church on Borland Road, near where Eck and Borland meet. Quick background, the WFC, the soccer club, Willamette United, requested, and there was a planning level county decision for a similar use interpretation in 2017, allowing sports fields, training centers, office buildings, amphitheaters, etc. But the decision was remanded back to the county by LUBA, Land Use Board of Appeals, as proper notification was not done to local landowners like myself and some other neighbors. So now the similar use decision is back in the county, and it's being updated by WFC and the county, trying to defend the interpretation decision in this new remanded interpretation. And there's some changes to what they've done, but it's essentially very similar to what happened back in 2017. In their decision, they use different justification processes. Our group, which we are kind of informal, we call Keep Borland Rural, we're opposing it. Everyone that I've ever talked to in the CPO area has opposed it. And more background, maybe the WFC needs to go through a similar use review to get the CUP finally approved. They need this interpretation for similar uses to be approved and to build the sports complex, really. And a side note, I think Len mentioned it, there is a CUP decision already been made. It was remanded back to on the complex. It was remanded back to the county by LUBA in our appeal. And then WSC appealed it back up to the higher court of appeals. That appellate court decision on the CUP may come out near the end of this year, but we actually expect to prevail, but we don't know yet. If they were to get that, then they have a big leg to stand on to move ahead, but hopefully that we prevail, we don't know. And then I just want to add too that our KBR team, Keep Borland Rural, all agree that sports are a great life development tool. We do not dispute that WSC is trying to help kids, doing a great job. I personally coach hundreds of boys and girls basketball games, Little League baseball, Little League softball. I appreciate the positive aspect that sports have in youth development, and I think we all do. We do not have any issue with the soccer or sports complex. The problem with the WFC request is that an RC zone property is not the correct location for a massive sports complex. That's actually the headline of the Westline Tidings, is how it describes it, the massive sports complex. You can review the application in the email that was sent earlier. I mean, 3 artificial sports fields with 180,000 square feet of turf. Of course, the actual dimensions are 236,000 in the CUP. That's over 5 acres of sports fields, 33,000 square foot training space, which also includes 4 indoor futsal courts, 18,000 square foot office building, outdoor basketball court, much more. I mean, the WFC advertises this to be a world-class athletic facility. This is a $14.1 million investment, you know, to make this facility. Just soccer tournaments alone, using the data from the WFC, will draw about 8,000 people on the 3-day soccer tournaments that they will host, which will be multiple per year, at least either WFC hosting or other clubs like Southside Soccer, etc. You know, these fields will support soccer, football, and lacrosse. As other tournaments can happen too. They have to have 70-foot stadium lights, which are planned for year-round use to meet the business plan, right adjacent to Borland Road. You know, basically no rest for our rural area. You know, WFC themselves has advertised the sports facility as a massive boost to the local economy. You know, clearly anticipating high use. I mean, to think it's going to go into RF5 in our area, any RF5 is pretty much hard to understand. All of this is planned in less than 5 acre lots of rural, residential, farm, forest area. You know, in defense of our relatively rural lifestyle, you know, I can say this massive complex does not fit in the Tualatin Valley Stafford zone or any RFF5 zone. Now, getting closely on here, there are many technical zoning aspects which we're bringing to the court from a legal aspect is why the zoning is not correct, which rules are making, etc. We have an attorney, a good attorney helping us on that. I'm not going to go into the details of that. But there is no facility like this RFF5. It doesn't exist. The only place this type of facility is found is inside the urban growth boundary. You know, to use a sports phrase, the whole use of interpretation in this case is and around the zoning requirements to me. You know, we as KBR are fighting the interpretation, but we request the CPO people to help to oppose a sports complex in our backyard, and we help tell the county that we disagree that this facility should be in an RF5 zone. And that's the end of my discussion. I'm sorry it was so long. Thank you for letting me do that.
Thanks, Mitch. And so we wanted to give some background before we actually talked about what the position of we want to propose as the position of the CPO. So, you know, as Mitch kind of said, this kind of a wonky, you know, deep in the weeds process with the county procedure. We're basically saying that the planning director made a decision and we don't agree for it, don't agree, and here are the reasons why we think it should be, we're appealing and it should be reversed. So, and maybe Katie, this is a good time to make sure everybody understands the background before we go into, you know, what the CPO is proposing.
I'm sorry, what is it that you're wanting me to clarify the background?
I was asking if we should have people ask questions about the background before we go into what we're going to propose.
I do think that we should take questions. Len, what's your concern?
One thing I want to mention, One thing I wanted to mention was that the plan director's decision was asked to make it a similar use of other sports field in RFF5. And like Mitch said, and it's been brought up, that there are no current RFF5 zoning or locations like this. So I don't see how the planning director could make a determination that it was similar to something that's in RFF5. It doesn't fit. That's the biggest thing behind it. Go ahead.
Right. So Katie, can you go with the questions, and then we'll actually tie into what Lincoln said.
Okay. So I want to encourage anyone who has any questions or comments to use the raise your hand feature to let me know that you'd like to speak, and I will invite you to speak. So we have one raised hand. You'll see the raise your hand feature. It should be probably in the lower portion of your screen, or perhaps if you're on a Mac device, sometimes it's in the upper portion of your screen, but that's how I'm going to know that you have a question. So if you have a question or comment, please use that tool. And we're going to start with Patty.
Okay, so I'm glad you saw that. because as Walt said, this is a different screen. So it was throwing me off a little bit, but I do understand the history of this, John and Lynn. I am interested to know what our arguments are going to be against it, in addition to the fact that there is actually no other similar use facility in the county.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, you hit on two points that we're going to put in the appeal that we can just go over now. One is that we feel that the planning director did not make a determination of most similar, which is, it can't just be similar, it has to be most similar. As Mitch talked about, this is really a sports complex, not an isolated ball field and, you know, down the road with weekend play. This is a 12-hour operation. As Mitch mentioned, 800 people probably per weekend, running till 10 p.m. at night. So this is a big deal. And so the other point that we wanted to make was that the planning director basically looked at the footnotes and a table that itemized all the allowable uses in RF5, but one might be a basketball court, one might be a soccer field, but what was described, they're proposing to do multiple fields, a big complex, 12-hour operation. It is not what you would typically see in a rural area. So we feel, or we propose, that the most similar use was what was determined back in, I think it's 2017, the neighborhood church conditional use denial. And in that situation, the hearings officer determined that it was denied because it was a sports complex and didn't fit the zoning. So that'll be a second argument. And then and I kind of just mentioned that it becomes a big commercial operation. It is not consistent with the character and intensity limitations that come into play in a rural area, and really that would impact the local area. And so those are basically the three main arguments. One, that the planning director erred in making a similar use determination, that that there's a commercial operation and the most similar use is not consistent with, even though the planning director feels differently, table 316-1 would list individual sporting events or options. And when you combine them, that they're not what we would consider appropriate for this area, as Mitch mentioned, and that as Mitch and Lynn said, there really is no other facility like this in RFA5, and would set a terrible precedent for future conditional use permits. So that's in a very brief form. That's really the arguments that we want to make in this appeal.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so thanks. I was just curious what we were going to be putting in the appeal. So thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we do have one comment in chat, and I'll read that to the group. It says, the best example for a sports complex will be at Lusher Farm, 2 more soccer fields plus, but they won't begin building until they enter the UGB. This was after the 2017 ruling, so if Lake Oswego believed the 2017 ruling was correct, they could start building this spring. And then the next question is from Richard Wired, and I'm going to invite Richard to speak.
Well, hi, good evening, everybody. This is really shocking. I knew about it, but I didn't know to the extent and all the twists involved in the ZDO to get this approved. Anyway, sorry, folks, but my wife and I are both here. we've been in the CPO for quite a while, and we both have separate Zoom meetings at 7 o'clock. If there's going to be a vote tonight, we need to get involved pretty quick.
Yeah, count us in as supporting the CPO's decision.
Okay. Well, if everybody's satisfied with what the thrust of what the CPO wants to send forward, I guess we could go forward with some voting. Could we not, Katie?
Yeah, we don't have any more raised hands and I don't see any more questions in chat. So I think we can move ahead with Len asking for a motion.
Yes, could I get a motion and a second to make the appeal?
Well,
I
guess I can
move
do
that a vote be taken at this time.
I need a motion and a second so we can vote on it. Yes.
So let me try. I would move that the Stafford Tualatin Valley CPO submit an appeal to the planning director's interpretation decision and state, as I mentioned before, the three main areas of disagreement, that it's not the most similar use, that it's a incongruent with the rural RRF5 zone, and that the planning director is basically, as Mitch mentioned, is creating a zone change without going through the proper process.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, so with a second, I'm going to now start the vote. And Richard, since you have to go, I'll ask for your vote first.
I vote
To support the measure.
to support the CPO and their appeal.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I do.
Okay, it's one vote for household, so I will count you as one vote. And I'm going to start going down the list. Patty Mamula.
Yes, yes. I support the appeal. I would vote for it.
Okay. And then I'm to Elena Kewen.
Keen, but yes, that's me.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's a tough one.
Are you a yes?
I am against the soccer complex.
So that would mean you're voting yes in favor of the motion.
So that is a
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And Andrew Rice. Andrew Rice, what is your vote?
I don't think I can vote because I haven't made a meeting in the last 12 months.
Okay, that
But
sounds
my
great.
vote would be to appeal.
Okay, thank you. Bill Long. Bill Long, what is your vote?
Katie, you might have to remind people to unmute themselves.
Bill is unmuted. I just can't hear him speaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I
you're
vote
a
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Carol Yamada. Please unmute yourself.
Go ahead. I'm voting for Carol. This is Randy Yamada.
Okay,
And go ahead with the appeal.
okay. Catherine M.
Yes, then.
Are you a registered CPO member?
You want me to shut that off?
Do you want to see anything more? I'm pretty sure it's going to be unanimous or it's going to carry.
Catherine, are you a CPO member?
Yes.
Are you voting tonight?
Yes.
Okay, is your vote yes?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I don't see. Jen Hart.
I don't think I'm a member,
Okay.
but I would vote for the appeal.
Heidi Guther. Are you a CPO member?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you very much. Jane Comer.
I support the appeal.
Thank you, Jane. John McCabe. Are you a CPO member? John McCabe. Oh, he's voting yes, he's in chat. John Park.
I have not attended in the last year.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Julie Mast.
Hi, I have not been in a meeting in the last year, but we're direct neighbors of the complex and just want to thank everyone for their support.
Thank you, Julie. Ann C. Ann. Ann, are you voting this evening? Ann, are you voting this evening? Okay, we'll move on. Julie Park.
Yes, I support the meeting, sorry, my husband's next to me, it's echoing.
That's okay.
I support the CPOs in moving forward. I have been to a meeting in the last year.
Thank you. Lynn Guy.
I haven't been to a meeting in the last year, but I used to attend regularly, so I won't vote.
Thank you. Megan Burt.
Hi, yes, we have been to a meeting in the last year and we are voting yes to support the CPO.
Thank you very much. Oh, it looks like Ann, you're back. Ann, are you voting this evening? Ann?
I'll ask her to unmute.
Oh, there she goes. Ann, are you voting this evening? Ann, are you able to use chat to vote? If you use the chat function, I can count your vote.
You just unmuted me. This is Elena, but not Ann.
Okay, well, Ann is unmuted as well. All right, we will move on and I'll circle back to Ann at the end. Nancy Scott.
Hi, yes, I am a member and I vote in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Okay, Pat Thurston.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. I am a member. It's been a while since I've attended a meeting, but I vote to support the CPO.
Okay, thank you, Pat. We have someone registered as PT Debs. Are you
Katie,
there?
Katie, this is Mitch, her husband.
Oh.
So I'm going to vote for her. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were in the same household.
Nope. Nope.
Okay. Richard Fiola.
I vote yes for the appeal.
Thank you. RJ Cook.
Yes.
Okay. Shelley Lonsdale.
Harold and I both, we have never attended a meeting, but we would definitely vote for the appeal.
Okay. And Walt.
Yes.
Great. So I am going to ask anyone who I did not call to please raise their hand to make sure that I count your vote. If I missed you, please raise your hand. Okay, here's Anne. We'll try Anne again. Anne, please tell us your vote. Anne, we're having trouble hearing you. I'm guessing there's a problem with your mic. If you could use your chat function to vote, that would be helpful. And while I'm waiting for your chat, I'm going to count the panelists.
Katie, this is Mitch. Did you count me as a yes? Because I have attended and
yes, I did.
Pretty obvious that would be yes. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to call on John Keith.
Yes.
Len.
Yes.
Jana.
Yes.
And Bill Mart.
Yes.
Okay. I'm still waiting to hear from Anne. Oh, Anne, yes, got it. Okay. Is there anyone else who I missed who did not get to vote tonight who needs to vote? Please use the raise your hand function to let us know.
So, Katie?
Yes.
Before you sign off, let the folks know, or I'll let them know, that because they attended a meeting and they couldn't vote because they hadn't voted or hadn't attended a meeting within the last 12 months, they can now. So even though you couldn't vote tonight, you can vote on issues in the future, and thanks for attending.
Absolutely. Oh, Patty has a question. Hold on just a second. Go ahead, Patty.
I just have a quick question about what's the next step since we've approved, or I don't know, now that we've had the vote, I'm curious what the next step is.
John, you want to fill us in on
Sure.
that?
Sure. So as we kind of touched on before, the appeal is due tomorrow by 4 p.m. And based on the receipt of an appeal, we know at least one other party is going to appeal as well. There has already been a scheduled hearing on October 15th with the hearings officer to hear testimony of the appeal. So that's the next short-term step, but as we also talked about, depending on the outcome, the Willamette United we'll probably come back with a conditional use permit application again, but if the interpretation is turned down, then they will not be able to move forward with that. So this is why this appeal is important.
Okay. Oh,
If
Walt
anyone
has a
no
question.
Anyone has no further
Walt has
questions,
a
go ahead.
question. Hold on, Lynn.
Go ahead.
Walt, go ahead.
John, is there Luba appeal beyond this?
Well, Mitch, do you know? I mean, I know you got the appeals court decision by the end of the year, but that could really change course too. But do you know, can you go back to Luba again if it's goes the wrong way?
I believe what will happen is that the county commissioners might hear it again. If the hearing officer, whatever the hearing officer decides, most likely it'll go to the Board of Commissioners to review. And I believe beyond that, it could go back to Luba again. So this, could be a bit of a fight. I would be interested in Katie in the vote count. I didn't think I heard that.
I took a total of 23 votes, and it was 23 yeses.
Great.
23?
And I will send all of that over in an email.
What did you say, 24 votes, 23 yeses?
I said 23 votes, 23 yeses.
Okay.
You didn't
that's
have
all.
any no's.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'll send it over in an email with all of the information you need.
Well, thank you,
If there are
Katie.
no other questions or any other matters to be discussed, this concludes the meeting.
Yeah. Big thanks to Katie for pulling it together last minute.
You guys are so welcome.
Thank you all for your efforts in doing this. This works out good. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And Lynn, I'll be sending an email to ask you what time I can come by with the letter.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.